Good morning and welcome to the Development and Finance Committee meeting of the Housing Opportunities Commission of Montgomery County. Today is Tuesday, January 27th, 2026. I'm Commissioner Jeff Merkowitz. I am joined today by Commissioners Robin Solomon and Jonathan Miller, as well as President Chelsea Andrews and other HOC staff. Hope everyone is enjoying the snow and able to dig themselves out without too much difficulty. The first order of business today is to approve the minutes of our previous open and closed session meetings from December 16th, 2025. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve. Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye. Aye. The minutes have been approved. Thank you. The other item on our open session agenda today has to do with our Heritage Emery Grove development, and I will turn it over to President Chelsea Andrews to begin the discussion.
Thank you. Good morning, members of the committee, members of the public, and the HOC team. This first item is a continuation of the work that we are doing in partnership with our key stakeholders that have all been very supportive of the Heritage Emery Grove development in Gaithersburg. This is a multi-phased development, and we are working through, as you can see in today's presentation, the next steps with regards to our parcel, Camp Hill Square, and what we need to do in order to get that parcel ready for demolition and to make sure that those households are properly relocated. You will hear today the recommendation related to transitioning our current HAP contract to another property. You will hear how we will be supporting all of the families throughout this process, those who are in affordable and market pursuant to county code requirements. And you'll also see that there is additional requests for funding related to the pre-development expenditures for Heritage Emery Grove. As a reminder, HOC is serving really as the master developer for this project. Any of the expenses that we incur will be reimbursed once the development is completed. However, just of course to continue to move this development along, there are pre-development costs, and I will allow the team to share more insight on what that entails. I will turn it over to both Jay Shepard, our housing acquisition manager, who's been leading this development, as well as Ellen Goff, who is the operations manager, who's also been advancing this. Thank you.
And thank you, President Andrews, and good morning, commissioners. For the record, I'm Jay Shepard, Housing Acquisition Manager, and I'll get us started with an overview, and then when we get into detail on the HAP transfer, the Housing Assistance Plan contract transfer, Ellen is going to step in too and assist. So if you recall, the site, this aerial of the site, and it encompasses the larger area that we're calling Heritage Emery Grove. That really has been historically the namesake for that particular area. And HOC, as President Andrews mentioned, is the master developer. There's a lot of stakeholders involved in the overall plan. And so one of the things I just wanted to mention we'll dive deep into Camp Hill Square and the relocation of the assistance. And then we are going to get into the budget and the pre-development expenses related to covering those relocation expenses, as well as some additional items to really bring forth the plan and encompass all these stakeholders with communication and outreach. And so just as a high-level overview to kind of catch you all up on Camp Hill Square and Emery Grove Village, that property, those two properties that are owned by HOC are under contract with an entity, Haley Development, that has been, they just actually submitted their preliminary plan combined with their site plan in December. and they're moving forward with the entitlements to change, get new a new plan for those two particular properties, which they're anticipating closing with us in the first quarter of 2027. And so backing up from there, the demolition is occurring late in the year, November, December timeframe, and applications for the demolition occur right in around September, and we'll cover that in a little bit later in the slides. But it really precipitates the need for the transition and relocation plan, which the team has developed and are ready to implement. And so we're going to talk through that. You got to go to the next slide, please. And this is an overview again of the overall areas of the property. We're asking. Actually go to the next slide. This is a good overview. I wanted to get into the transfer. And so just before I turn it over to Ellen, in July of 2024, we approved this transfer of the HAP contract previously, and that was going to Washington Square, which is a property. Actually go to the next slide. This is a good overview. On the other side, I wanted to get into the transfer. And it was, and so just before I turn it over to Ellen, in terms of the transfer, specifics about July of size and count, it actually isn't going to work to go there. And so we identified another property, Cider Mill, and Cider Mill is located approximately 2.5 miles. It's in Gaithersburg. It allowed the Camp Hill residents to later in the slides who are under the HAP contract to relocate to another family property, keeping them in the same general area and maintaining schools, daycare, employment, et cetera, which was really vital, we thought, to the overall plan. Cider Mill also is a more comparable relocation property. It has available market units with bedroom sizes that match the HAP contract. And so we felt that's where the subsidies could be better placed. And so I'll turn it over now just to Ellen. If Ellen, you want to walk through this slide, the rest of the slide, and then the next slide.
Sure. Thank you, Jay. For the record, I'm Ellen Goff, Real Estate Operations Manager. So as Jay mentioned, there is a 10-unit PBRA HAP contract currently at Camp Hill Square. And as we are working on the closure of Camp Hill Square, the plan is to retain that HAP contract and transfer the assistance. Again, as Jay noted, we thought Cider Mill was a more comparable property. There are currently 8 units under the HAP contract that are occupied. 2 are not. They are offline from a previous fire. And then the other market rent. Just to be clear, we have a very comprehensive relocation and communication plan in place that we've developed for all residents. So residents will have choice on where they can go under both URA and the County Code Chapter 53A has certain requirements. Just to be clear, so we will be following all regulatory guidance, which allows residents to move to any property of their choice, but we think Cider Mill is a good option for them. For the residents under the HAP contract, we will be seeking tenant protection vouchers for them so that they can actually move to any place of their choice. But if they choose to go to Cider Mill, we certainly welcome them there. And that is where that we're proposing to move the HAP contract again, because they have the unit sizes, they have market units that could support these subsidized units. And so for all residents, they will get relocation assistance payments either under URA or County Code Chapter 53A, which requires 2 months rent. We will pay all relocation costs, and our property management team will work closely with this population to ensure that they find a relocation unit, perhaps, it's somewhere else in the portfolio, if not Cider Mill. There is a process to transferring the HAP, and we are working through that. Requires resident meetings. We'll certainly do all required resident notifications and have several meetings. We are waiting to confirm if the HAP will transfer, and then we are going to be scheduling a resident meeting to discuss the plan and work with them with the goal of vacating the property by the end of summer. We're going to tell residents they do not have to move until June. As Jay said, there's a lot of school-age children here. We want to make sure that they can get through the school year in case there are changes of school. And with that, I'll take any questions about the relocation, or Jay, if you want to finish the presentation before questions.
Well, no, I mean, if the commissioners had a couple questions about that specifically, we could do that now.
I do.
Okay.
This
Go
is
ahead,
John.
Jonathan.
Thanks. So Ellen, are we using so we have 10 units under the project-based Section 8. Are you using the PBRA and HAP contract interchangeably?
No, the PBRA is the 10-unit HAP contract.
Okay, so when you say HAP contract, you're talking about those 10 units.
That is correct.
So what you're saying is we're applying to move the project base to Cider Mill, but if the residents don't want to do that, they would have access to a tenant protection voucher.
Correct.
Got it. Thank you.
I assume,
And that would mean that if the tenants don't use those vouchers, they would be available to the PBRA would still be available to other residents or other new occupants of those units.
Correct. We do anticipate that, at least some of them will be vacant when they come over. There is a waiting list right now for Camp Hill. So we are working with our compliance team to ensure that anybody on that list gets notified, and that there will be a site-based waiting list at Cider Mill for those 10 units as well.
I assume the HAP contract rents are higher than the rents you're getting at Cider Mill, or is that wrong?
They're actually closer. The budget authority would transfer, so the current rent schedule, they're slightly lower, just slightly lower, but it's only 10 units. And again, that's why we felt like Camp Hill could support the HAP contract.
Thank you.
Could you remind me why we originally selected Washington Square for this transfer instead of Cider Mill?
It was, as Jay said, it's close by, about a half mile, and it's under the same management company. However, those are townhomes that currently already have a RAD HAP contract for 20 of the units, and between the rents and the unit mix didn't work. They did not have the 2 bedrooms available for the current unit mix. And we felt that Cider Mill was a more comparable property that could support this HAP contract.
Do we have any? Sorry, Robin, please.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to ask, do we have any sense? Do the residents already know what's going on here, and are they comfortable with the Cider Mill option? Do we know?
We don't. We will be meeting. We were waiting to confirm that
Gotcha.
the commission approved the transfer of assistance, so we had to get that first before we could let them know that's where it's going. So, but again, all residents have choice on wherever they go. So even if they choose not to go to Cider Mill, they want to stay, closer in that neighborhood, they will all get relocation assistance, moving costs, and, some form of a relocation assistance payment.
Thank you.
Jonathan, they're probably all watching this meeting, so learning about it as we speak.
Does Cider Mill have other project-based HAP on it, or none at
They
all?
do not, no.
Thank you. It's a small thing. It's only 10 units, but you could probably do a markup to market.
And certainly we will explore that as part of the transfer assistance.
It's only 10 units, so it's not going to move the needle a lot. So,
okay, let's continue.
Yeah, one thing I wanted to point out, if we go to the next slide, and thank you, Ellen, is that back when we had been previously at the commission, we did get approved discontinuing leasing activity at Camp Hill Square. So if there was any question about that, that's already been in place. And so currently the occupancy there is 37 occupied units. And so that's really the breadth of what we're talking about. Just wanted to point that out. But thank you so much, Ellen. So if we go to the next slide, as Ellen mentioned, the relocation costs, have to be captured. We did a deep dive really into what each tenant's situation looks like, and based on HUD guidelines and county guidelines, work together on creating what that cost would be per resident. And they're different, and each one is going to have a unique situation that we're going to address individually. But when we compiled those costs together, they weren't in our original budget. And so we're asking for a budget increase there. We're also asking in the updated budget for costs to secure the site further from any additional unauthorized access to the site. We've got some third-party reports that we have to do for HUD as well as demolition because of the age of that building. We're going to carry those forward. There's some additional planning work with the larger parcels that we're looking at accomplishing, as well as the entitlement for costs associated with Pepper Ridge, which Selzer Gervich has been handling and doing a very good job. And so we're capturing those updated costs. And then what I'm really going to focus on here at the end of the packet is the community outreach coordination and that cost to cover 3 years worth of expenditure for the work that they have to do, which is really substantial. As you bring all these stakeholders together, including the county, including the church, all the residents in Flower Hill and all the residents in Emery Grove, you've got our residents and you've got park and planning. You really have this large group of stakeholders that we really wanted to get in front of, get the messaging in, and we'll talk more about that. This is coming off the $150 million relock, which does have room to carry the additional ask of $1.475 million. In that number is interest carry to carry this forward until we can pay this back, as well as additional contingency to cover unknowns, which always come up. The next slide.
I'm sorry, could you stop there just a second, Jay? Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Unless you're about to answer this. Tell me how we're getting paid back and the timing we're getting paid back.
So the first sale, when Haley closes, that'll be the first chunk of monies back in, and we're looking at first quarter of 2027, and that's for both the parcels, Heritage for Emery Grove Village as well as Camp Hill Square.
And that would be the $1.7 million or whatever we have out at that time.
Yeah, it's actually more than that we anticipate coming back. It's in the 2.5 range. And so, of course, final is dependent on the number of units that they actually can implement that park and planning allow.
But the expectation is we get all of our dollars back in the first quarter of 27 with any luck.
We're looking to get back around $2.5 million, which this total budget now is grown to $3.2 million. So we are working on anticipating more sales. The Pepper Ridge parcel would carry that forward, and that would bring in, additional funds there. And then overall, we have the Up County parcel. Both those two parcels, HOC is acquiring at no cost. However, we have to put the money in to entitle them and subdivide them. And then those lot sales to hopefully partners that are smaller businesses, enterprises, and also minority business enterprises through that outreach campaign, will really bring in the additional funds to carry whatever we had in terms of cost. That gets fully paid back, and then any additional monies go into escrow, potentially for the benefit of that community.
Thanks for correcting me. Thanks for correcting me. I was looking at the wrong column. Are any of the transactions in the future going to have us issuing bonds or doing something that generates income for us, or not?
No bonds have been contemplated. I think our primary goal is to facilitate the master planning of the effort. Now, I will say, as part of our agreement through the DGS sale, that HOC does get reimbursed, not just direct cost, but fee.
Time.
Time associated with fees. But we didn't call it that necessarily. So it's a way to reimburse our time, essentially.
Thank you, Jay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, of course. So then the next slide really just outlines.
Excuse me, are we going to talk more about the community outreach coordination effort?
Yeah. Here, let's just jump to that. That's slide 9 in your packet, the next slide. So, yes, so we did an RFP 26-017. It went out to the full universe as far as our area goes for vendors that would be potentially interested in engaging with us and the team, the larger team, on community outreach. We received some great responses, at which point we went through a short listing of those responses and narrowed it down to 2 firms that we felt had the capability, the horsepower, and the experience to get it to really implement the vision. And so then after we went back to make sure that the work that they were providing were apples to apples, we went out with a best and final offer. And this slide actually details all the different things that they were asked to provide pricing for. And so the firm that really jumped out at the entire panel, and I'll say wasn't just a panel this time of HOC staff. We actually did a both internal and external panel that included partners from the church, partners in that community, to really act as reviewers for this effort. And the firm Brick and Story, if we go to the next slide, really produced what we thought was the right team. Not only were they cheaper overall, turns out, but they had the experience with planning. They'd already been doing work in that area. They had worked on Johnson's Park, which is a key component, almost the keystone, I think, of what Heritage Emery Grove was, where the Black Negro League played baseball during those years. But they have the experience working with clients much more similar to HOC. Yeah, it was a little bit like when we saw the pricing, I'll admit it was a little bit higher than I thought we had anticipated. But when Brick and Story really broke down their numbers for us, much more detailed than anybody else had done, we saw that it included project management, including kickoff and biweekly team meetings. They had engagement strategies, development and refinement of those with drafts and ultimate finals. They had engagement implementation, which included community meetings, mix of virtual and in person, door-to-door outreach with staff, surveys, including design, deployment analysis. They had 4 focus groups, assuming virtual most of the time, but they had really, they just had this breadth about them as to the capability and horsepower to sort of, engage this community in the right way. They were also creating the website, or taking the website that we have and actually making it into something that can be very useful for communication. They had monthly maintenance on that. They had reimbursable expenses, which were actually pretty small. And so ultimately, it was a fairly big number, but in the overall, path of this project, it really is going to make a big difference in terms of getting these various stakeholders who are sharing sort of dissimilar views at sometimes about how things should go, and getting them on the same page. And we really felt now's the time to make that happen. Now's the time to use this team who has this experience and knowledge of these partners, and bring that forward. And so, this slide really just outlines, that level of what Brick and Story can provide. There's so much more too, but they rank the highest.
So I appreciate that. Very, very helpful answer. Is it possible to get to see, you said they gave us a detailed breakdown of how, the funding for each of these elements that are listed. I think that would be useful to see if that's possible. And then I guess, the number, that number really jumped off the page. Are we covering that cost, or is that going to be part of what we're reimbursed for?
Fully reimbursable. Yeah. It's part of any of the costs associated with this go into this pre-development expenditure line item. And then when the sales from the lots come back, they are paying those costs back first, and then additional fee, items related to fee and time. And then anything in excess of that goes into escrow, which we do anticipate there will be excess.
So I guess I was under the impression that there had already been an enormous amount of work with the community. The church has been very active. I've been on a number of calls with a bunch of stakeholders.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I was under the impression that a lot of work in this regard had been done. So what are and that most of the planning is done. Maybe that's
no. So let me jump in.
Yeah.
So what has happened so far is really, and the work that has taken place has been efforts by key stakeholders to ensure that these parcels are conveyed to HOC, that there is some initial planning and discussion on how we may try to recreate this community. But the outreach that needs to happen and the consensus that needs to happen between current residents and former residents, reaching out to all of those families, envisioning what that entire community should feel like, especially the areas that aren't necessarily going to be residential, but will be a community space, and what that will look like is definitely still very much underway. And there is no, while the church, Pastor Warner is fantastic, that is not his necessarily skill set in terms of leading mass communications and all of the efforts that it will take, from surveying to focus groups to websites to community engagements. We have helped support some of those efforts, but it has not. There needs to be a company that has this expertise that holds it. And again, this is something that it's not just HOC. This is HOC essentially being the steward for addressing what has been a community that was displaced, and wanting to ensure that when this community returns, that everyone is in alignment, feels good, and that it really holds the community values in a way that it should. And so that's a big part of this work. I would just say that
and Chelsea, I would add, I would imagine that given the history of this location, there's a lot of sensitivity around any potential displacement or relocation.
Yes.
So.
Right. And there's a task force that's currently underway looking at the impact of urban renewal. There's a lot of moving pieces here. And so having an independent consultant that can spearhead this is going to be critical. The other thing I would just add is this is a multi-year contract. And so obviously, if it's not a good fit, there would be opportunities to pivot or to make changes. But what we have learned from our own engagement, we did stakeholder engagement for a strategic plan for 1 year. And if we had to do that cost for 4 years, we would have been well over this threshold. So it's not unreasonable. And the commission is aware, we, in terms of the consultant that we use for our own strategic plan. So these costs are within range. I will also just add that since this is a procurement and the terms in terms of what the breakdown of budget is something that if you're requesting Commissioner Miller, we can provide. However, it's not something that we would share out publicly, as these are the terms that are provided from each of the bidders. So,
what is the term? What's the term of the contract, Chelsea?
This is, I believe, a three. Jay, please correct me. 3 year.
Right. Mm-hmm, 3 year, correct.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. The budget says 4-year campaign contract.
Yeah, no, it's a 3 year. And we actually solicited for 4. We actually solicited for 5, but the contract itself would be for 3 years. And that's what we're asking for the budget authority to cover.
So it's a couple $100,000 a year, and Chelsea, you're saying you'd spend more than that if you had to hire people, putting aside the time of taken to try and hire the right people.
Correct.
Yeah, so that's a very helpful answer, Chelsea and Jay. Appreciate it, and I would like to see the numbers and understand that they're confidential. Thank you very much. Very helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. The last 2 slides, if there are no more questions on that, would be just the commission actions prior to this. If we go to the next slide, that lists out all the commission actions that we've been in front of the commission previously. And then the last slide is timeframe. We would be presenting this today, and then for formal action at the February 11th meeting of the commission. There is no direct impact to the agency's 2026 fiscal year operating budget, and that there are available funds under that $150 million relock. And so we're asking for the 4 requests that you see. And just to recap, that taking all necessary action to complete the transfer assistance request, including the TPBs and submitting a transfer of budget authority request to HUD for that transfer from Camp Hill Square to Cider Mill, as we discussed, and authorizing to comply with the relocation requirements in connection with that relocation. That was the second item, including any required relocation and rental payments. The third is approving the updated pre-development budget. That includes the $1.475 million to be used to continue development work on the project, as well as the 4th item we kind of discussed, which was using it from the relocation. The real estate line of credit, and that would cover these additional costs, including the community outreach contract.
Jay, you've disclosed the brick, whatever they're called, contract with our partners, so they know what's coming in terms of paying us back.
So all the team members would benefit from having them on the team. They're an assembly. The payback payback is already contractual. It's in the sale of the units to us.
But it's a change in your budget. I just want to make sure they know what they're going to be stuck with paying back. That's all.
Well, what they're paying us back for is the sale of the lots. And that's a fixed price based on, the number of units that they're able to achieve.
I got it. Yep.
So they, irrespective of kind of our budget, they're not paying our budget directly.
But that sale is enough to cover our costs. Got it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Jeff, do you want a motion, Jeff?
I do.
I move to approve.
Or to support the staff's recommendation and send this to the full commission.
That's what I said.
That's what I heard. Is there Jonathan, was that a second?
Yep.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
The motion is approved. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, commissioners.
Thank you. Great presentation.
Oh.
And Ellen, great
If
presentation.
there are no other items for the open session, pursuant to section 3-305B and D of the General Provisions Article of the Annotated Code of Maryland, I move to adopt the written closing statement dated January 27, 2026, and to adjourn this open session to a closed session to discuss two topics. First topic is the possible acquisition of real property located in Chevy Chase. HOC must discuss this topic in closed session to protect HOC's bargaining power. Section 3-305B3 allows this meeting to be closed. The second topic is the financing of a property located in Bethesda. HOC must discuss this topic in closed session to protect confidential commercial and financial information provided by HOC by a third party. Section 3-305B13 allows this meeting to be closed. If a member of the public that is watching this meeting in real time on YouTube wishes to object to the closed meeting, please comment in the YouTube chat box or contact HOC's General Counsel. Instructions can be found in the Open Meetings Act objection procedures, which is posted on HOC's website. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
This meeting is now moving into closed session. Thank you very much.
So remind me, we get off here and then open a separate link, right? Thank you.
Yep.